I bought this game at the tail end of release day. Just walked into GameStop and picked it out. They had tons. The guy checked the computer and asked his supervisor, "Hey, if there are no reserves, he can have any from this box, right?" Well, he was right. No reserves. GameStop wasn't the first place I checked, though. I first went to the electronics department of a nearby Fred Meyer's, and they didn't have a single copy. They weren't sold out. They'd never bought any to begin with. Dragon Ball Z, The Battle of Z, is packaged cheaply, but you know what? I get it. This is a tough game to sell in the US. The Battle of Gods movie hasn't been released here yet, so what do you have to go on? It's a new style of game from a developer new to the franchise. It's being released on the wrong side of a new console cycle, and Dragon Ball Z games don't really have the kind of market cachet they used to. Inside, you get a redemption code for whatever stupid vendor-specific bonus costume you get, in my case Naruto Goku, thanks GameStop, and a thin manual. No, not even a manual, just the bare minimum safety information printed on the inside of the cover art so that children won't die from seizure. Battle of Z was developed by ArtDink, who are new to Dragon Ball Z, but not new to games in general. ArtDink are responsible for a huge list of games stretching back to the 80s, and have worked on a double handful of mecha games, including several Gundam and Macross titles. The game starts with some reasonably nice looking animation and a reasonably nice sounding rendition of Chala Head Chala, and then you're at the menu. You can switch to the Japanese voices, which you'll probably want to do so you don't have to listen to Colleen Clinkenbeard's Gohan voice. The voiceover language is easily located in the audio options menu, but for everything else you have to dig and dig. The menus in Battle of Z are insanely obtuse. If this was an import, you'd be fucked. The mission and character selection menu is laid out in a stupidly random way, and it's very difficult to tell what options and submenus do. Here's an example. I'm trying to equip ability cards, but it won't go. Why? I'll tell you why. This game is localized terribly. I'm pressing a button labeled confirm. What does that mean? It means confirm that you have finished viewing this card in a read-only environment that in no way modifies your character. The loading screen hints are equally bumbling. Items need to be equipped at customize in the character info. Items disappear after it is used, so be careful. Items is plural. It is not. Items disappear after they are used. Did anybody who speaks English work on this game at all? Sometimes you will want to fight without the help of your allies. If that's the case, just press left. What? How about if you want to fight alone, press left on the D-pad? Why pepper the sentence with an overabundance of connecting words? Piccolo can use Demon Hand to draw faraway enemies to within range. Bar the enemy movement and bring them in close in an instant. Bar the enemy movement? What? What the fuck? Frieza Third Form's Counter Shoot is a move which can retain a Ki Blast attack and convert it to energy to release back at. Syntax, motherfucker! You can't seriously call this English if you don't follow any of the rules of English. The translation is too literal and it makes no fucking sense. It reads badly and it makes everybody sound delirious. Battle of Z is an offshoot of the successful and popular Tenkaichi series, so it plays totally different. The new fighting engine pits teams of 4 against each other, and it doesn't play like any fighting game I've ever played. The reason why is simple. Battle of Z isn't a fighting game. It's a MOBA. MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. Games like Dota and League of Legends and probably a lot more. MOBA is like MMO Lite. The gameplay requires you to know your role and work as a team to sync up your specialties. And there is some minor RPG progression. Melee, tank, range DPS, and healer are actually words that can describe a Dragon Ball Z game now. Every character now has 2 signature moves mapped to the triggers and 1 super move. Gohan is a healer. His signature moves heal and revive allies. Power attacks and signature moves drain your stamina bar, which fills up passively, and the super move is tied to the energy bar, which fills as you chain attacks with your allies. After a battle, you earn random upgrade cards to equip on the characters. They also gain experience, which means you actually have to build a balanced party. Or just field a party of all Goku. I call this the GT Final Bout roster. In battle, you can give your team very basic orders, telling them to attack or defend, or to support you while you fight. This is problematic because the AI is terrible. Support types rarely ever use their revive or heal abilities, melee types stick to ranged combat, and so on and so forth. Either the AI should use each unit based on its type, or it should be more in-depth so you can change them individually, with a radial menu perhaps. Having every member of your team use the same strategy means they all use the wrong strategy. There is no order you can give that will make your healer characters actually fucking heal. If any character dies and you have no retries left over, you lose. Again, a terrible fucking translation, because you continue fighting. You don't actually retry. Why not call them lives, or revives, or continues? When you get knocked down, you have 4 seconds to be revived by your healer, who typically stands there slack-jawed right next to you while you fucking bleed out. So then you fail, and whose fault is it? Unless you grind up experience and items, the enemies hit like a freight train falling from orbit, so you kind of need a healer. It's infuriating because you weren't losing until the AI shit the bed and threw the whole fucking match. Basically, the game's AI is such a crapshoot, you have to play the healer yourself, which is even more boring than playing the other character classes. And here's the best part. Literally any character can revive. Healer types have special long-range revives, but anybody can do it. So why then, I ask, does nobody fucking do it? Oh well, at least it looks average. The character models look like high-grade resin models. If they were inanimate and sitting on my desk, I'd be impressed. But in-game, they look much worse than the last few Sparking and Blast games. Thankfully, they're not as shiny as Burst Limit and not as off-model as Budokai. They look a little porous, though. Not fully sponge-like, as in Ultimate Tenkaichi, but maybe like pumice stone. In battle, the graphics are more than serviceable, at least on PS3. Large levels with up to 9 characters on screen, tons of action, and absolutely no slowdown. In cutscenes, or when you look at them up close, the characters and lighting look dated. This might be an effect of being cross-platform with the Vita. The levels are big and decent looking, even though the visual scale is fucked. The door to a house is 3 times taller than a person. Gohan's head doesn't even come up to the bumper on this average-sized truck. Environments are domes, and the destructible objects are bare bones and only caused by certain attacks. The audio design is almost not worth talking about. The voices are good in both languages, as always. Colleen Clinkenbeard is still hilariously miscast as Gohan, but whatever. I'm over it. Kinda. The music is pretty sparse. I only noticed 2 distinct tracks and everything else faded into the background. The rest of the music is just reused again from the last several games, and I never liked it to begin with. Battle of Z has no local multiplayer, which I don't think is a mark against it. It wouldn't work with this style of game, and previous DBZ titles were all very bad as competitive fighting games because of the iffy balance and the pace of battles. They range from moderately fun to pretty much pointless to friendship-seeking missiles. Battle of Z has an online component, which makes a bit more sense. Online co-op would be a great way to get around shitty AI, and competitive online multiplayer offers you the ability to pit your custom teams against other people. Since it's a MOBA though, all you're really going to gain by going online is a bunch of exciting new swear words. But here's the big problem. There are no custom battles, only preset story missions and the online mode. And man, that just sucks. The only reason anybody buys a Dragon Ball Z game with a big roster is to pit characters against each other in what-if scenarios. Guess what else? No transformations. There are different forms, but they are all different characters. There are no more customizable super moves like in the last few games, and the worst thing is you have to equip each transformation differently. This system is terrible. It is terrible. When you unlock a new, open quotes, transformation, you have to level it up separately and migrate all of your item upgrades to it. It feels very unnatural. The lack of transformations and custom battles make this feel like a step back from previous DBZ games, and makes it seem a little bit less like Dragon Ball. The playstyle is kind of a step sideways. You can take it or leave it really, but the little touches like charging up, transforming, and what-if matches are what I usually play these games for. Because there is no random mission mode, ArtDink has to tell the story again. And Battle of Z tells a really fucked up story. One day, Goku and Krillin are wandering around training. After killing some Cybermen, they fight Raditz. Yeah, I remember that from the show. It was right after Cell and Frieza went to the past, did the fusion dance, and came out looking like Yajirobe. Telling a faithful story would require way more cutscenes, way more voice acting, and a ton of game assets for locations and characters that only serve to move the plot along. Normally, I get it. Why waste a bunch of time making a Snake Way backdrop if you're just going to show it in a cutscene for 5 seconds? But in Battle of Z, all you have is the story mode. It's not just about simulating the important battles, because there needs to be a framework for the RPG elements. But the focus clearly isn't on the story because it so breezily writes off tracks of the story from the show. The story in Battle of Z is laughably inaccurate, even when compared to the abridged versions from the Tenkaichi series. And again, I get it. I'm tired of playing the story of Dragon Ball Z. I'm tired of fighting Raditz with the Goku Piccolo tag team. I'm tired of playing a story mode where the fight is constantly interrupted with cutscenes that end the fight automatically. In a DBZ fighting game, I don't need story anymore. Just give me arenas, characters, and combos. But this isn't a fighting game. The story needs to be less vague because without it I'm just kinda mashing buttons with the merest hint of justification. See what I mean? ArtDink is forced to do the story again, and we're forced to play it because of the style of the game. If you don't play Dragon Ball Z games regularly, you might not care. If you've played any of the last, several, Battle of Z just kind of floats by you and makes no impression. A new approach to boss fights could mix it up, but instead they're somehow less interesting than the normal fights. You chip away at body parts to stagger the boss, then go all out for a few seconds. Typical. Enemies have way too much health and way too many carbon copy henchmen to plow through. Mashing buttons while the boss's health drains away is a slow, depressing grind. Now don't get me wrong, the rest of the game is also a slow, depressing grind, but the boss battles are even worse. In one mission, I killed 129 identical Frieza soldiers. No exaggeration, 129. And the thing is, I failed. I didn't get to the end of the mission. Who the fuck knows how many I was supposed to end up killing? What I do know is, I'm never going to play that mission again. My final score for Dragon Ball Z, The Battle of Z, is a 4 out of 10. Not really worth it even for fans. If you're a fan of Dragon Ball games, you might consider buying it when it drops in price. So far, it's the only game with the new characters from Battle of Gods, and the 8-player pseudo-MOBA RPG fighting style is interesting, I guess. I think. Maybe a little bit. Really though, no one character is varied enough to be fun to play. Battle of Z is boring. There are too few features to sustain gameplay of this baseline level. The game is a slog, and you'll turn it off long before you unlock any of the new Battle of Gods content. Wish I had better news for you. See you next time.